Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Wellness Blueprints. I'm Jess Milner. I'm so glad you're here to nourish your roots with me today. I am a master nutritionist, a functional bloodwork specialist, and quantum energy healer, and I have been clinically practicing and helping folks on their wellness journey for years now. And today I want to talk about something that's kind of a hot topic. It's not exactly something that I talk about a whole hell of a lot. But it is a hot topic. So I want to touch on it because, there's a spiritual nutrition aspect to this as well, just like anything else that has anything to do with your health. And that is, we seem to have a crazy epidemic with ticks. Now, this has actually been going on for quite some time because I remember, my kids are between 8 and 13 now. And I remember, when my 13 and 11-year-olds, they were in nature school and stuff like that. And I remember like there was a day when I pulled 4 ticks off of my son in one day, 4 in one day. So, ticks have been like amping up for I'd say a decade, or at least a decade now, because I don't remember there being quite so freaking many of them. Now, I don't see very many where I am here in North Idaho. Of course, other people in this area say that they are seeing plenty of them. They're talking about taking them off of themselves and their animals and stuff. Uh, but I do remember, and I know that my friends back east in Jersey are dealing with a whole hell of a lot of them. There have been nests. I've had friends who had dogs go through them and like babies, and they're like there's ticks everywhere, and it's just what do I do? Now I grew up in New Jersey, and I remember I had a tick on my head in school one time, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's this thing? I went to the nurse, and she's like, oh, you got a tick on your head. She took it off, and I remember another time I had one like inside my ear or something, and I remember I was in my mom's bathroom and she had to like take it out for me. But so maybe one or two other times. That's all I remember of having a tick attached to me in my entire childhood. So that's like what 3 or 4 times that I can remember having a tick actually attached to me in all of my first 18, even 25 years, right? And then by the time I had kids, I literally couldn't let them go outside in the backyard for 20 minutes without like tick check. And we pretty much found one almost every single time. So I don't know if it's a conspiracy. I don't know if they're dropping them in from somewhere. I don't know if somebody's out there like, ha ha ha, let's bring all the ticks in. I don't know if that's going on, but nevertheless, there's a fuck ton more of them than there used to be. So another thing that we are seeing now, which this is something that I, never really heard of until a few years back, and that's this alpha-gal syndrome that we are seeing. This basically where people are becoming allergic to protein, especially that in like beef. I think depending on the severity, you can eat like different kinds of proteins, but it's like particularly that red meat, that beef protein, which is arguably one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. So, it really sucks when you become like actually like deathly allergic to something like that. And, so we hear a lot of talk about this now. And I do believe that it's specific to like the Lone Star tick or something. There's only a couple of species that like carry it, right? But I remember years ago hearing from, there was a friend of mine in New Jersey, and she, one of her sons had been bitten by a tick, when he was younger, and he had this syndrome. And I had never heard of it. And I'm like kind of talking to her, and she's like, oh, yeah, he's allergic, and blah, 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 blah. And so she explained it to me. And I was like, oh, wow, like how rare, and it was a super rare thing. And it was like, being the holistic mama that she is and everything, she did lots of different protocols. I don't know exactly what she did. But he was slowly able to start eating the beef again and stuff like that. But then, it's kind of like, hey, if you get bit again, and when there's so many of them, then it'll just kind of like restart everything. So now this is becoming a little bit more widespread and everything. So, people are like, oh my goodness, are they like, what are they coming out with? Whenever they start to hype something up, then suddenly there's a big problem with it. So hopefully that's not going to be the case here. But the thing about all of this is that if you have knowledge on a subject, if you understand what's going on with something, then it's a little bit easier to not get super scared and, be able to keep your head on straight and everything. So, I mean, I'm just going to give you a couple of things that I do in my house and everything. But as far as like going after, like an infection that you think might be a Lyme or a co-infection, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of that, but I'm gonna let you know, like, I got a friend who's that's who you go to for that. I don't have to be the expert in everything, the spiritual side is for me. But in my house, and I thought of this because my daughter got like stung by something earlier. But we keep homeopathic remedies in the house. So we have ledum, and we have apis. So the ledum is like, it's for like, the redness, the inflammation. I mean, almost anything homeopathic is going to tell you if you have a tick bite that this is something that that's going to be like a go-to for it. And then the apis is for like the hot, swollen, pain and stuff like that. But the two of those together can really help that. And then I always put our poofy everything salve onto bites and stuff like that. It's got tea tree oil and stuff like that. You can actually mix a little bit of carboxy or bentonite clay or something like that into it and put it on there, kind of make like a drawing salve. Poofy does make a drawing salve too, I do believe, but I just don't have it in my house. But I have other ways to like put that kind of thing together. And that's for like, if you are to get bitten. And there are amazing protocols that I would use using combinations of, cell core, maybe systemics, lots of different things that we would put together. And it was always being muscle tested and everything. So there are wonderful, wonderful protocols and everything that can really help to get your body, everything flowing, to get things moving. So that your body can actually try and get rid of the toxins and everything. But if you really want to know, if you want like a tick guide and you want those kinds of things, and like the recipe for a garlic ginger lemonade, my girl Dr. Sarah Outlaw, go find her. She's got your tick guide. She has that, because when you have like garlic, like tick, they don't like that. So if you drink something with garlic in it like that, they're going to generally be like, no, thank you. So that kind of a thing, it's that internal, I don't know if garlic wouldn't be a deodorant. It would just be an internal perfume, if you will. But, that there's something to be said for that. When you are emulating that, the ticks are kind of like, no, thank you. So you're not as appetizing to them. So that is a good thing. So, but there are, that is that physical side. Okay. The physical side to what is physically happening to your body if and when something like that it happens, and, we would be able to muscle test to see, what the severity is, in terms of, what kind of things we need to go after, and then muscle test to make sure that you have the exact same thing, the exact correct thing for you. Because not everybody is going to be needing the same thing. Not everybody was bitten by the same tick. Not everybody has the same everything chemically going on inside of their bodies. But so yeah, definitely go find Sarah, because she, like if I had an issue going on with something like that, she is who I would be sending a text message to ask about that. So she's got you there. My side of this is that spiritual, that energetic side, because just like I sound like a broken record, but your energetic field, that morphogenetic field, holds the blueprints for your physical body. So, when we do things like body code, we dig into different things. There are just like you hold on to an emotion, okay? And there's usually an emotion attached to it, but just like you hold on to emotion and maybe it's in one spot, you've seen like people who do the different somatic releases and things, where they're pushing in to a spot that's been in so much pain and connecting it to an emotion, and then things are released. Your body holds on to the energy of more than just the emotions that you feel during those times. So, it can be things like, toxins and pathogens that we are noticing from years ago, or even things that are inherited from, just because, like you don't only take, some DNA from your ancestors, there are other things. There is that emotional, that energetic DNA that is being passed on as well. With finding some things, people go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you found that, from my great grandmother, and, she had this or whatever. Sometimes people know those things about their great grandmothers. It's always interesting when they send me an email back and they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, wow, that person. That's so amazing. Because I don't know that I would know who that ancestor was off the top of my head. So I'm always impressed with that, but it's really cool. But there are things like, like a major illness that you had as a kid or something like that, or an accident that you had, where there was just so much shock. There was so much going on that it healed, but there's an energy of it still there. And then that can cause, the energy of it being there can actually cause symptoms as if it's physically there. So body code digs into stuff like that. So like when we go in, there's all kinds of stuff in there, misalignments in systems, and There's different circuits, there'd be misalignments in there, all kinds of different energetic things. There can be different, like, programmed beliefs and patterns and stuff, that we can kind of poke into. And then you have, your toxins, pathogens. So under toxins, we have things like what is there under there? There's dental toxins, there'll be like heavy metals, environmental toxins, EMFs, drugs, pharmaceutical or otherwise, food toxins and stuff. There's things that we're exposed to all the time, and they can leave a little bit of energetic bleh in there as well, and it can be tied to an emotional thing. So when we're looking for something, we're like, okay, what's going on? We have all of these symptoms. So if I'm like looking, for imbalances related to, like this fatigue or this weakness, or, these things that, keep on coming up, that people are like, what is going on with me? I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And, anybody who has had to deal with any kind of Lyme or Lyme co-infection, you understand how difficult it is to finally figure out and pinpoint what the hell it might be that you need to address. Because it's usually like a running around in circles, like, well, this looks fine, and then this looks fine, and you're just like, well, and the doctor's just like, I don't know why you're tired all the time, I don't know why you're so sick, I don't know why everything hurts, I don't know why everything's autoimmune. There's so many things going on. So when we could dig in with body code, say, what are the imbalances going in here? And it comes up, oh, it's a biological poison. Okay, so that could be something that's like microbial. It can be like a poisonous thing, like maybe something that you ate. It can be, and it can be something venomous like that, and it can be, from like a tick or a bee sting or whatever, and maybe it wasn't something that happened yesterday. It could have been something that happened 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So we dig into there, and we can start to remove and smooth out the energetic frequencies that are surrounding all of that. And then your fascia starts to be able to move better. Everything starts to flow better. And then those fantastic supplements that you are taking that are targeted exactly with what is going on inside your body are able to work so much better, so much easier, so much more efficiently. And you're like, okay, I'm starting to feel better. Sometimes you have to go through a couple days of yuckiness because, healing's not linear. And if you got something yucky in there and it's got to come out, hopefully it's not a horrible experience, but, we're all a little bit different. But, when you have things, and then also you'll probably have like the energy of like the pathogen, like the bacteria or the parasite. There's usually that tacked onto there with it somewhere. Because it's a bacteria. It behaves a lot like a parasite. So you're going to have some overlapping things there for in terms of symptoms. Obviously like fever and rash and stuff and fatigue, but like fatigue and even like weakness and stuff like that. But with bacteria, you're gonna like muscle aches and digestive upset and stuff like that. And then with energy of parasite, what are some of the things you might have? You're might have different allergies and stuff. If you've got parasitic overgrowth that's causing like a microbiome, then like maybe you have like overactive histamines, and so like you eat walnuts and your mouth is itchy, but 3 weeks ago when you ate walnuts your mouth wasn't itchy. So things like that. But also chronic anemia and stuff like that. There's different stuff, anxiety, problems with sleeping. All of these things are, like we're like, oh, maybe there's a parasitic thing, maybe there's a bacterial thing, maybe it's just an energetic bacterial or parasitic thing, something left over that's still there, the feeling of it, the vibe of it, just kind of hanging out, like, oh, we were supposed to leave, my bad, I didn't leave. And I help out with that. It also helps us to put eyes on some of the emotions that we might have felt that might be contributing to it hanging out there, and understanding that we're okay with letting that go so it doesn't have to bother us anymore. So I just had to touch on this because I know that there is that energetic side to this and everything. And we want to make sure that we are getting our body ready for wellness at the blueprint level, at that cellular level, and even deeper into the energetic aspect of the cellular level, if that makes sense. Smaller and smaller and smaller. Quantum is very, very tiny. It's breaking everything down into the tiniest little things that we possibly can to make it super, super confusing. But it also makes it super, super fascinating and opens up into a whole world of like, wow, look at this. We break everything down into the tiniest, 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 tiniest thing. And it's made up so similarly to the biggest things like we see in the universe and everything. It really helps to show you just how aligned this work really is when you can get into the nitty gritty with it like that. But I'm not going to sit here and bore everybody to tears with any kind of quantum physics lessons here. But it's really fascinating if that's something that you want to get into. But that is essentially what we are doing. We are breaking things down onto the tiniest level to make sure that we are not missing any little nooks and crannies. No, we're not going to miss any little details. And these little energetic details are actually very important. So if you want to schedule yourself a body code, you need to come and see me. You need to reach out. So I'm going to put the link into the notes here, and so that you can go ahead and grab a body code session. Let me see if I can remember the website right off the top of my head. Okay, so if you go to deeprootedwellness.as.me. That should be it. That should be it. That's my booking link. Book a body code. Completely Zoomless. I do not care if you wear pants or not. Just please do not share with me if you are not wearing them, because I don't want to know. That's you. But this is completely Zoomless. I'm going to send you a report with it and everything. Nothing's going to be getting in the way of this. I'm just going to get in there and get into your energy and help you clear some things and open up your eyes, to put your eyes on some things, to be a little bit more aware of what's going on inside, outside, and surrounding, permeating your body, so that you can have a better idea of what it is that you need in order to feel completely well, and on this journey of finding. I'm starting to not really like the word optimize, like optimize your health and everything, because it's getting really buzzy. I mean, it is kind of what you're doing, but things tend to get really buzzy, and I'm just like, no, okay, if everybody else is saying it, I don't want to anymore. Do you guys do that too? It's so funny. Sorry, I needed a sip of my, I'm almost done here, my emotional support latte. It is a little bit later in the day. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them here. Please leave me a review. Share this with somebody that needs to know a little bit of something. Little teeny tiny tips there. And then, of course, the energetic side. So please book a body code session with me. If you need to reach out to Dr. Sarah for some more info on how she keeps ticks the hell away. And she is, I mean, she knows her stuff. She pulled herself out of a horrible Lyme situation and everything. She was super freaking sick. And she is very open about it and everything. So she knows her stuff with that. And she'll also tell you that I know my stuff with body code and just quantum energy work in general. Because when we work on that tiny level, then the bigger levels that we see right in front of us are going to respond. And that's what I want. I want the bigger levels. I want your body to respond. So let's make sure that that blueprint is ready to allow your body to respond. All right. Thanks for stopping in. Please stay safe from those damn little buggers. They are probably my least favorite thing ever. They say God doesn't make mistakes, but I have questions. All right. Please do not get bit. But if you do, now you know a little something to do. All right. Love you guys. Bye.